Awesome. Second episode of the day. It is another episode of the Technical Explanation Show. Hey, we're just building steam right now. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying. Um, Today is a treat. I have Bill Olson. Bill lives in Minnesota. He's been a wrestling official for more than 33 years. He's been active for 33 years. That's right. Right, Bill?
Exactly.
All right. So, Bill, how are you today?
I'm doing fine. Things are good here in Minnesota.
Yeah. Tell me about Minnesota, man. I've only been right over the border, the lacrosse border, right over there. So I'd stay in a hotel in lacrosse, look at the beautiful Mississippi, go over there. I think you have some ties to Winona. I have some friends that I went to, or Winona College, right? I have some friends that went over there. But tell me about Minnesota, man. What would be your sales pitch? Like, hey, come move to Minnesota.
Well, an easy thing for me to tell you right now is right now in Minnesota, it is gorgeous. I mean, it is autumn in Minnesota. I just was up north, Bemidji, northern Minnesota, about a week ago. The fall foliage is beautiful at this time, and now it's working its way down to the La Crosse, Winona area, which I am straight west of about 100 miles. In fact, I went through Winona yesterday, and we get the winters, we get the hot summers, but to me, this is the perfect time of the year. Haven't quite had a frost yet. The bugs start to disappear. Can still wear shorts outside.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, that was pretty good, dude. Hopefully some people at the Department of Recreation see that. It's funny that you say that. It wasn't until a few years ago in my adult life, and I know we're here to talk wrestling, but I like this. Didn't really realize how much you could appreciate that stuff. So I haven't seen it in Minnesota, but in Wisconsin we've got Door County, and I was like, hey, I want to go to Door County. I heard it's awesome. And they're like, okay, but if you do, you have to hit this 2-week period in October or else just don't even go, because it goes from green to yellow, orange, red. And it's just holy smokes, or geez Louise, as if you'd say, it's beautiful. And you just appreciate it. So I think I know what you're talking about, but I got to see that.
Yep. Yeah. We have that same Door County thing going on in northern Minnesota. We really do. Lakes, rivers, the fall foliage, but they're right. There's about a 2-week window.
Hey, let's clarify for our folks at home. So there's a guy, his name's the You Betcha guy, and he's from Minnesota. He's pretty funny. And then there's another guy named Charlie Behrens. He's from Wisconsin, the Manitowoc Minute. And they're pretty funny. And I know that that's not how people talk, but it's funny. So people don't say up north in Minnesota or anything like that.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And there is some You Betcha.
Yeah. You betcha.
And in Minnesota, and actually close around here, there are Norwegian communities.
Okay.
And there's You Betcha. And
that's awesome.
Up north. Yeah. Exactly.
You gotta go up 2 tree blocks there and make a left at the stop and go light. Yeah. Hook a right at the quick trip, and you'll be all right?
Yep. I actually grew up that way. I didn't grow up with having to go over to 4th Street. I went over to just down from the Joneses' house, places like that, because I'm a small town guy.
Hey, thanks for humoring me on that. A lot of people in Ohio, they don't get that, and I'm just like, man, this stuff's funny. That's the Midwest, because in Ohio, we're the Midwest. I'm like, no, you are confused because you're not Midwest, you're not East Coast, you're just there. And I love Ohio. I love Ohio, but the Midwest is the best. So this is Technical Explanation Show. In a little bit, we've talked, and this is where I try to get wrestling officials to tell their wrestling story. So I think I'd like to start there now that we've got our geography lesson for the day out of the way. How does your wrestling journey start? How old were you when you first were exposed to wrestling? Do you remember?
I actually do. I started wrestling in the third grade, and much different than it is now. We had elementary wrestling for about 4 Saturdays in a row during the high school wrestling season, and then one Sunday afternoon we'd have a inter squad match. And we didn't travel. We didn't go anywhere else. We had that, and then that was it. And then you progressed into seventh grade. And in Minnesota, seventh grader is eligible to wrestle on the varsity wrestling team. But not that I'm a 6-time state tournament guy or anything like that. But that is different than other states. So probably about ninth grade, I really started to take wrestling quite seriously. We had a coach move to town that I really identified with, and wrestling became a big part of my life. So I followed wrestling through my senior year, qualified for the state, did not place. Had some coaches talk to me. I went to a junior college in Iowa, wrestled 2 years, and then transferred to Winona State over on the river by La Crosse. And I wrestled 2 more years there, and that would have been 1980. And after the 81 season, that school's wrestling program was disbanded. And unfortunately, Title IX, yes, is a Title IX case. And I really, really think they could have a good wrestling program right now, but they have to have everything lined up, to make things fair for the Title IX situation.
Yeah, it's tough, man. I think actually, I don't think, maybe people realize it. Maybe I just think I'm smarter than I actually am, but I think after the dust settles, probably in the next 3 years with this NIL, which I'm totally for. But I don't know how. Well, actually, I should say I don't even know what justifies the NCAA anymore, because these are now professional athletes.
Yep.
And so, how are they going to fund these programs? How are programs who are already fundraising, or the big ones are fundraising, and the other ones are too, just not at the level, right? Not just trying to be negative or anything, but I think there's going to have to be a business model shift, or maybe this is the beginning of the shift to the RTC era. I don't know. I just think that there's a lot of things that maybe have been thought about that haven't been shared, or just we're like, we don't got to worry about that now. We'll worry about it when it comes up, and then it might be too late. I don't know. It's a topic for another day, maybe. So seventh graders, that's still to this day in 2021, a seventh grader could be a state champ in the state of Minnesota.
Absolutely. Yep. We've had, I believe just one 6-time state champ now. Mark Hall, who,
Marky
Penn
baby.
State. Yep. Marky baby. And we've had several 5-time, and in Minnesota, and I think the way the high school league kind of justifies the junior high kids wrestling is because in the smaller communities, they need them for the numbers.
And the lightweights too. I mean, the kids aren't small anymore.
Yes, and it's worked out well. And if they couldn't have wrestled, these teams would have been forfeiting more weights than they are. And worked out well for Mark Hall. Of course, Mark's got quite a story himself, but and I was able to officiate Mark Hall several times during his career. And in fact, I think his junior year, I had his state title match. But Mark didn't have many close matches in the state of Minnesota.
Hey, let me ask you this. Well, you have to because you're on my show. No, just playing. When you officiate, and it's awesome. My kids talk to officials all the time. You guys, officiating is officiating, right? when you're doing it. But then you officiate a guy like Mark Hall. You said 5, yeah, or 6.
Excuse me.
Mark
He's
Hall
a
had
6
6.
timer. Six
Yeah,
timer.
so the only 6-timer. So you did his junior year. So you did his 5th. How does that change how you watch him when he progresses to college and like senior level? Like, is that like, yeah, like
Well, that's an interesting question, and I've actually answered that question without it being asked by people. Myself and several officiating friends of mine would say sometimes we take a little bit of ownership in Mark Hall or Gable Steveson, someone like that. We officiated him. We may have slapped the mat when he pinned somebody. We may have warned him for stalling. We think maybe we helped in a small way train him. And I've told many pre-meet meetings with kids that they were last year's state championship team, and it's my opportunity to congratulate the coach in front of his kids and the kids in front of the coach, and tell them that that they've done things right, and as an official, I expect that night for them to do things right again. I mean, they did it all right to win the state title, so now it's not your chance to regress. It's to take the step up more. And that's always been one of the fun things for me, is to referee a state champ and then get to see him again in another match or in the gym and visit with him. And that people might not know that during the course of a wrestling match, sometimes there is a conversation going on out there between the two wrestlers and the official. And it's not social. It's all business, and the kids appreciate it. They really do. They've come back and said really good things. So,
in my experience, I get to coach, and the officials that do communicate, and I'm not saying have a conversation with the kids, but the ones that actually are a little bit louder and are, hey, I'm holding 2, or I've got green in control, or center, that actually, to me, after the match, win or lose, if it's a loss and it's close, I can say, what are you complaining about? The guy for 4.5 minutes, I coached in your eye, 4.5 minutes, told you exactly what he was looking for. There's only 2 people out there, so there's a 50% chance he's talking to you. Those are, I would listen. Those are odds that I would pay attention to. If you're a betting man, you take those odds. And so I appreciate that about you. So, but I want to get some clarification. So after a team wins a state title, a team or individual, you talk to them?
No.
Oh, okay.
No. This would be my conversation would be a pre-meet.
Oh, pre-meet.
We meet Team A in their locker room and tell them our expectations, and but no, not
okay, gotcha.
At the.
Sorry, misunderstood. Can you pre-meet? That comes up more of these conversations than not, which I'm really glad, because that can set the it does set the tone. You can tell the officials that have done it before, and you can tell by their tone, like they mean business, right? And how they control the locker room. In your opinion, what makes for a good pre-meet conversation with the team you're speaking with and the other team? What are like, if you had to pick 3 things that you absolutely have to have in your pre-meet, what would the 3 things that are, you're like, these 3 absolute 3 things have to be in there?
Well, let me see. One will be sportsmanship. It's been a point of emphasis the last few years with the federation. So I mentioned sportsmanship. I expect good sportsmanship. I let them know that I'm not expecting bad sportsmanship, but I expect good sportsmanship. You do not have to help the other guy up. You do not have to pat him on the back, but I don't want to see pushing, shoving, bad mouthing, showing the other team's bench up. Another thing that I bring up is starting positions. One of the easiest things is a foot on the line, knees behind, hands in front, navel and elbow, because if the kids do that, that makes the official look way better, because fans are yelling, he's got his knee over the line, he's got his hand here, he's got his elbow there. And I tell the kids straight up, I says, you can do this right. Then we don't have the fans yelling from the crowd. When the fans yell from the crowd, the official looks bad, and I don't want to look bad. And then it'll all come back onto the kids. And it's kind of told in a jovial sense, but I kind of mean business. And another thing sometimes we use is a team will have a captain or captains, and in the pre-meet coin flip, we make it a point, or I do, that the captain and the coach are the people we're going to talk to. So if one of the benches kind of gets unruly, we may look at the captain, and that might be all it takes. Or we say, get your guys under control. One of the reasons we do this is now the captain is more than just the appointed guy. He's just not the figurehead. Now he's the guy with the big shoulders, and he gets to make some decisions. And my goodness, has made a difference in some very big matches for me. I can look over and that captain, and it's like, oh man, the ref's looking at me and I didn't do anything wrong. And then he looks down his bench, and then it's all taken care of. So I guess 3 things there. Another thing, one more thing is be the 4th, but I always ask a team, is anybody on the team going to do some move tonight that's going to surprise me? Maybe it's their favorite move. They, once in a while, even after 30 some years, there's something new. Somebody does something different. They do it backwards from the functional way, and it works. And, years ago I got caught, Joe does the leg cradle, and it's like all of a sudden this guy's got a leg cradle on and he's got his ankles locked around the head, and I'm thinking, does he have head scissors on? No, he's got a leg cradle. And several years ago, it was the spladle. And they said, we like to use the spladle. And I says, okay, show me. Because I can't remember what it was, but somebody was using a different term for that move at the time. And then so it was the same move, different name, but we don't like to be caught by surprise.
Yeah, I don't think whether it's wrestling or anything, I don't think anyone does.
Yeah.
And the spladle is a good one. Kind of be aware that's going to come up too, because you can't really banana split it, right? You guys call that, right? From the top. But if you separate those legs too much, you got a potentially dangerous situation. Yeah. So then you're able to be like, hey, okay, great, just keep it legal, Yes. And then the guy, hitting his favorite move, and you stop him, like potentially things could go sideways, right? You're the official, you get this, you know what I mean? But it's like, tell me up front and we'll take care of it, and no harm, no foul. Awesome, man. So you are the head official for the Clash. How many years have you been doing that?
The tournament this year will be our 20th year. Last year, because of COVID, it was called off. But I've been since day one. At first, I was just an official there. Then the other guy who was the head official, he kind of moved far enough away that he couldn't be to meetings and things like that. So I've done it 18 years now. And at first, I officiated and took care of the coordination. And then there became a time when I said, I can't officiate this. I have to do just this, because I take care of weigh-ins, I take care of a rule interp in the middle of a match, and it's one of the things I enjoy most about wrestling right now. I really do. I've met so many great people, officials from, I think, 10 to 12 different states now, and then teams from all over the country. And that's great.
Yeah. You've got actually a different perspective, I think, than a lot of officials, because you're kind of on that, not kind of, you're on the administrative side, sounds like.
Yes.
And actually, just in an earlier conversation, we were talking about compensation for the officials and how it needs to be higher, in order to get more people to do it. And I don't dispute that fact, right? Like, no one wants less money, right? Inflation's gone up. The same, I mean, you used to get paid $25 back in the day for a wrestling tournament. Now, junior high or something, maybe make 120, 140. Clash is probably different, right? But I was trying to explain to them, I was like, look, I'm not a tournament admin, but I get to run like 16 to 20 tournaments a year. I'm not a tournament director. I'm a representative. So I'm there to make sure nothing goes sideways. And if it does, it gets handled. I'm there to make sure that the officials don't have to do anything else but enforce the rules, award the points, and maybe have some good food when they get off the mat, right? And I was trying to explain to him, I was like, well, what do you do? How do you pay them more? Because the only way that you can pay them more is you either are charging more at the gate, which it's high enough probably for most places, or you charge more on the entry fee, which people already complain about those things, right? And so it's like, it's a danged if you do, danged if you don't, unless you got an endowment. I don't know, like, how do you add, if you have 30 officials, how do you add $50 to each one of them? Like, if you can pull that rabbit out of the hat, then let me know, So it's tough. And I would love to be there. I don't envy the work that you have to do there, though. So I'm sure you get to deal with all of that stuff. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. Yep. I started out. I am on the Clash committee now. Before that, I would say I was the liaison between the officials and the committee, and then I was the rules interpreter at the tournament. So, as the liaison, when it first started out, they said, this is what we're going to give you for the 2-day tournament. And then as time went on, all of a sudden we roughed it for 10 years in a row. We kind of needed to have some more compensation because we weren't even getting paid for what a regular, Saturday tournament was. And I asked, and there was a little bit of pushback for some people. They says, we got all kinds of guys lined up that would like to officiate here because it was a big, big tournament. And I said, yes, but can you get them to come back next year? And
I remember this conversation now.
Yeah. And someone once said that, a competition with no officials is recess. And the two guys roughing, the coaches, the teams, or the two guys wrestling, the coaches, the teams, and the official, that's the competition. They didn't come to see the official, so the better the official, the less he's going to be seen. So it worked out. They take care of us adequately, or more than adequately, and I have to say that the Clash tournament may have the best. What do we call it? Hospitality room. Hospitality room.
Talking food now. Okay.
Yeah. I'm floating all over. If that's
no, go, because I was going to ask anyhow.
Yeah, they actually have 2 hospitality rooms. They have a hospitality room for the officials, the coaches, and I guess the committee members from the Clash. And then they have a hospitality room for the table workers and towel tappers, that kind of thing. But when I tell officials, if I hire an official, that you can eat 3 meals a day at that hospitality room. I mean, the second day there's a guy in there making omelets to order, and they have anything from shrimp and sauce and smoked salmon to.
I hope everyone's listening, because if you could go on a Saturday and eat like that, make a little money, well, get your license yesterday,
Yeah.
You know what? Here's the thing. You're not the first person that's told me that. I like food a lot. I get made fun of when I'm with coaches because I know where the best place is whenever we travel. Okay. It's my thing. But someone also told me the Beast of the East is up there too. So I'm making a mental note. I'm gonna get a Beast of the East official. We're gonna have you guys duel it out over who has the best hospitality room.
Okay.
And then maybe we all win. Not me, because I don't have a dog in the fight. But then maybe they both get better next year, and just do it every year, and you'll be eating steak one year.
Sure. Yeah, I do have at least one, if not, a couple different officials over the years that have worked both tournaments, and I've actually never came out flat out and asked them if one's better than the other as far as their hospitality rooms.
I want to know. Text me.
I may do that so I can.
No, do it. I want to know.
So I can share. Yeah, but we do well there in the hospitality room, and as far as hotel rooms, or I think this year they've lined up some VRBOs for the officials, so they take care of us that way.
Awesome, man. That's good. Hey, thanks for getting to that, because that's usually on my list. Yeah.
Okay.
Because me and I got 3 kids. I got 4 kids on my team, right? So, no one wants to invite to the tournaments because 4 kids,
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, that hospitality room, you do it right one year, I'm back. You got a contract for all four of us. Yeah. Okay. So I don't know how you recover from that, man. So let's talk a little bit. We had spoke last year. You just mentioned 2020, right? Was the COVID year for the class, right?
Yep.
When we were talking in our very first call, I like to talk with everyone, just make sure everyone that's going to be on the show knows what we're trying to do here. You told me a story that, and why don't you tell me, it was a certain tournament, or maybe it's the state of Minnesota had to wear masks.
Okay. Yeah. This last year, the COVID year, the season started, I think 2 weeks late, because they were deciding what they were going to do.
So is that after Christmas then for you?
Yeah, exactly. And then during the course of the year, there was no dual meets. There was only triangulars and no Saturday tournaments. So your typical, I do 3 or 4, 8 to 10 team Saturday tournaments during the year. They were no longer. So there was only triangulars, and then it kind of depended on the particular school, how many fans they would let in. Some conferences let no fans in. Some conferences let 2 fans per wrestler. So basically there wasn't hardly anybody in the stands. And in Minnesota, the wrestlers had to basically wear a mask unless they were on the mat wrestling. So my pre-meet to the kids was, and I can't penalize you for this, I just want to let you know that take your mask off, come out and wrestle your match, win, lose, or draw, go over to your bench, catch your breath, get under control, and please put your mask back on. And I couldn't have had more support from the coaches. And the coaches always like to have somebody else tell them the same thing that they want to tell them, because it seems sometimes the kids will listen to the official more than the coach that they see every day.
Isn't that funny though? I'm sorry to cut you off.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny though? Like it's the same way with like kids. The person that's the closest to you, that has like your best interest the most at mind, will tell you something a million times, and then this guy that's going to officiate maybe 4 matches for you for during the year, if you're lucky, tells you one thing, and you're like, oh, mask on.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. Go ahead.
And it worked out fine. The kids put the masks on, and I really don't know of one time during the year that there was a COVID incident. I mean, a huge, big one. There was some kids that got the COVID, and some officials, I think. But even at our state tournament, the officials were able to work the tournament. The official wore a mask the whole time. We had a whistle inside of our mask, or some people had the hand-held whistle. And for me, it wasn't as bad as I thought it might be. It took a little while.
It's just different, right?
Yeah, it was different. And the different thing to me was the lack of crowd. Because especially when I got to the state tournament time, and our state tournament was a whole different ball game too. It was held at a high school. Minnesota has a 3-class system, and they wrestled A one day, double A, and triple A each day. And in the past, it was held at the XL Center in St. Paul. Everybody's there at the same time and intermingles. And it didn't work that way. The small schools came in on Thursday, the medium size on Friday, and the big schools on Saturday. And
didn't you tell me that they like cut the brackets like in half or something like last?
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say, how do you get?
Yep. They cut the brackets in half. Only 4 dual teams came to the state tournament. So when you were there, you were already in the semifinals. It was strange. It was. Yeah. But they got to do something.
You just said it. Thank you, Bill. Yep. Got to. Ohio, it sounds like Ohio handled things quite similarly, and I think a lot of states did. I think a lot of them had to work together because we're all dealing with something we've never had to deal with. Hopefully, we don't have to for a very long time, or maybe never again. But yeah, it's pretty deep. They still did 3-day tournaments, but they did them in 3 different large high schools, all in Columbus.
Okay.
2 people per, so very similar. And that was my first time on the floor. And I never would have been on the floor if it was at the Schottenstein Center, which is maybe I would have, I don't know, Columbus. But yeah, I mean, it was different. And it felt really eerie. I don't know about how you felt, but there were those moments where something spectacular happened, like always happens, right? Yep. And maybe there wasn't 16 or 26 or whatever the number, thousands of people there, but for a second, you're like, yeah, that's the state tournament. And I think hopefully we don't have to worry about that this year. But I think like we have to like hold on to that and just remember like could have been way worse.
Absolutely, it could have been called completely off, and in fact, the year before, the Minnesota State Wrestling Tournament was the last state tournament.
I remember that.
We had that, and just a local team from around here was in. They'd got to the halftime of a semifinal game of their section, and at halftime, it got called off.
Yeah, it's just. Can you imagine being 14, 15, 16, 17, whatever, how old? Yeah. And especially with a sport like wrestling, it's a long season. There's, for some people, there's the cutting of the weight, there's the mental aspect, there's all the extra time and everything, and then just boom. And if you're a senior, my heart goes out to them. Like, but I mean, think about this last year. Like, some kids could have missed their junior year and their senior year. So again, it's all about perspective. It stinks. Wish it never would have happened. But I think I just like it when people have that attitude, and I always want to call it out because it's like it makes all the big difference. Officiating, man, 33 years active. what are some of like the highlights that you just remember? You're like, man, I get to do this. Like, what are the high points?
Well, some of the easy ones to remember, and this is looking back because these names have been in the news lately, like Mark Hall, Gable Steveson, Thomas Gilman, our recent world champ. He wrestled at the Clash, and his head coach, name is on the tip of my tongue right now, but we became acquaintances, and I'd run into him at the NCAA tournament. And short story on Gable Steveson, I think it was his 9th grade year. And of course, he won the state that year individually. But in the dual team, Apple Valley was wrestling St. Michael. Perennial, they would wrestle each other in the state title. Gable might have been in 8th grade. But anyway, he was a 220-pounder. And we could see the whole thing. We had a head and assist, 2 refs working this, and it's going to go down to the heavyweight match. And here they bump up their 8th or 9th grader to heavyweight, and he takes out the individual heavyweight runner-up, more than handles him to seal the deal for him. But here's a underclassman gets bumped up and to win the match for him. And all those 3 kids were, outstanding, not only wrestlers, but kids. I mean, as far as dealing with the official. Other highlights would be that dual meet, Apple Valley St. Michael state finals. Another highlight would be my first state tournament. My first state tournament in Minnesota, which was mid 90s, probably, something like that. A little kind of interesting story. I was going to do this match over in the corner mat, and my wife was coming up to watch me, and she says, "Let me know what mat you're on." So I texted her or called her and said, "I'm going to be over in this mat." So she went down over to this corner mat, and it happened to be a Class A dual match, and one of the teams was New Richland Heartland, which is about 40 miles from here, and I'd done matches for them during the year. Small school. I mean, a couple towns with about 850.
Really quick, for my clarification and our listeners, because I always forget, not everyone's from the state. So A would be your small school division.
Yep.
Double A would be your middle, and then triple A.
Triple A. Yep.
So opposite of baseball. Gotcha. Okay.
Yep.
Thanks.
Yep. So I'm going to do this dual meet over there. My wife goes over and sits down, and she's looking around, and she says, all these people, have their red and white igloo cooler. They brought their lunch. I mean, this is a rural community, good people, but they're not going to pay that price, and they're bringing their coolers in, and they're digging out sandwiches. And pretty soon these people start looking at her, and what are you doing? And they says, well, who are you here to watch? And she says, well, that referee out there is my husband. Oh, we like him. We really like him. So my wife enjoys officiating or coming to watch me and my friends who she's got to know, and she knows good wrestling also, but she kind of got a kick out of it because she sat there and listened to people yell at me also.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, she doesn't have to do it anymore. She lets some people do it for a day, rest her voice, right?
Yeah.
No, I'm not saying
exactly.
That's awesome, man. Hey, thanks, because that's what it's all about. And a lot of times, especially for officials, I'm glad that your wife got to hear that and that answer came out. But I think a lot. I've said this and I've thought it over the years too, like teachers and like officials, right? A kid in high school isn't going to go up to their teacher and be like, hey man, or hey, ma'am, thank you for what you did and making me work really hard. You really, uh, you helped me. You're going to help me. I know it is. Like very few 17 or 18-year-olds are going to say that, right? But you get to a point, a little bit, hopefully, and you get to a point, you get around maybe your mid-20s and you're a little bit older, and you realize, oh, that history teacher that I had, he was really hard on me. But if he wouldn't have, there's no way I'd know all the Ohio's counties.
Yeah.
Not that it might help me on Jeopardy for my couch, but it you know what I mean? You don't get the recognition. And I think the same thing's for officials, right? I've said it several times. Sometimes you guys are viewed as adversarial roles to the competitors and the coaches. And I'm not saying that's what the perception should be, but sometimes it is. And so when you get to have those moments, it's really cool to be like, I did this for 33 years. And you know what? At least one person does it. One person appreciated it. So that's a cool story, man. So family life, I wanted to ask, so you're married?
I'm married. Yep.
How many years?
I'm married 39 years.
Congratulations, sir.
39 years. I have 3 kids.
Yeah.
I have boy-girl twins.
Okay.
Are 32, and then
another girl.
Another girl that's 30.
Awesome. Are they
around? One lives in my town, same town here, and one lives in Rochester. One lives in north of here. All professionals, paying taxes and doing. And just I couldn't be more proud of them. Yeah, that's awesome. Be more proud of them.
I can tell, actually. You lit up there. That's cool, man. Rochester, New York, right?
Rochester, Minnesota.
Oh, Minnesota. Clinic. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, the Mayo Clinic. Yeah, that's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, right down the road here.
They do. Yeah. And then, where did you work? Remind me.
I was actually a painter and vinyl hanger, a union painter and vinyl hanger in the area here, but I spent close to 25 years right in the Mayo Clinic. So yeah. I went to work there every day, and there's millions and millions of square feet in the Mayo Clinic. They own buildings in Rochester people don't even know. And interesting tidbit of that is, when you're a painter and you work in the clinic, you walk around, you got whites on, painter's clothes. And so you kind of stick out. And over the course of being official for 33 years, people know, well, there goes Bill. Some people are always running me down and say, ask me about that call last night. Or what about that call Rick made last week in that match? And so run into people all the time that wanted to talk wrestling, and enjoyable experience.
Let's dive into that though. So I approach you in the Mayo Clinic and I ask you about, you're not there, you're working or you're officiating somewhere else. And I come up to you and I'm like, hey, see that call Ray made? Like, cause they assume, cause you guys are both officials, that you see every match, right? Like, Ray called you up and he's like, hey man, you can't, it doesn't happen that way. But like, let's say you're in the same gym, you're on mat 1 and mat 4 is the other end, and someone you've known because you've been officiating for so long comes up to you and maybe a little frustrated, and they're like, hey, this is the situation that just happened over there. Was it the right call, or what would you have done? How do you handle that? Because the way I look at it is that's like my brother in officiating. I don't have the full story. I don't know if your story is accurate. Probably isn't, because you're emotionally charged right now. Like, how do you navigate that?
Well, my thoughts on that and my teaching to our new officials is to be a professional. You're not going to kick your brother down on mat 4. You're not going to kick him in the knees. I'm going to listen to your story, and I'll have to ask Ray. And that's the answer you're going to get from me, probably. I'm never going to say, yeah, he made a terrible call down there. Your guy got screwed.
What a knucklehead.
And because, and on the other hand, if he did make a terrible call and we're in the locker room, I'm not going to call him out because I'm a superior ref, but we're going to talk about it. And we're going to say, what did you see down there? And because we have to know the next time that situation happens. We all got to be on the same page.
Yeah, we're human. My guest earlier today, I tell you what, for not being an official, it was really cool to see a high level wrestling coach, like just, he's got officials' backs. And like, I couldn't have looked, I asked him a question and I was like, oh, I'm going to get a good response. I don't think it's going to be 5 minutes of like it was good. I can't wait for that one to go live. I think officials are going to appreciate that at least one coach out there gets it, right? Thanks for helping me there. Cause that's the thing too, as a coach, sometimes I'm, no one's winning a college scholarship in a junior high match.
Yes.
Tom Ryan's not, going. I'm Ohio guy, right? Tom Ryan, so Logan Stieber isn't wrestling here, so he doesn't need to watch him in 7th grade, So, couple more things. Then I want to talk a little bit more about officiating, maybe give you some homework. But I want to make sure I get this out there because this has been a lot of fun, and I want to make sure you get the recognition that you deserved. So you're in the Hall of Fame in Minnesota, right?
I am. Yep.
What year?
12.
Okay. Tell me about that. When you got the call, tell me some of the emotions or the thoughts, or like what was the thought process?
Well, I had been nominated, okay. So I knew it was a process, and I can't remember when I was nominated. I had to fill out a form, and maybe in 9 or 10, and I thought, well, you go in the next year.
I was gonna say, I 3 years.
Yeah, I kind of thought that's the way it worked, and it doesn't, because it's actually the High School Coaches Association Hall of Fame, and so some years there's more qualified coaches or contributors that go in, and they've probably been waiting too. But when I got the call from Steve Ricard, it's very humbling. It's very humbling, and it was. It couldn't have been more fun. They have a banquet, and I think there's 6 or 7 inductees, and mostly coaches, and usually like one official will go in, and that was my year. So you get somebody introduces you, and of your choice, and then you get they put you on the timing clock, and you get to writing time clock is what they actually use. And you get to give an acceptance speech, and
where's that all take place? People. Is that like is that a banquet where they
yeah, it's at a banquet. It's at a hotel banquet room, and they pack the place. You get a good meal, and it's full of Hall of Famers from the past, and you get to bring your family and who you want to be there, and it's really fun.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Yes. Well deserved, just from the research I've done and from our conversation. I know I feel just justified in saying that. I'll give you this. Just do with it what you want. Because I think it's cool. Ohio does their induction, and their coaches association does the votes too. It sounds similar. They do it before the finals on the last day of the state wrestling tournament. So they line, so there's a tunnel, which is iconic in Ohio. It's a black tunnel, and every wrestler comes down this. It's probably 18 feet long. They come out this tunnel, and then they walk up to the matches, the whole tournament. It's done really, really well. Biased. But on that time before the finals, they line every official, because all the officials are, there's table workers officials, there's the ones working the mats, there's ones volunteering and doing stuff. All of them line this tunnel. And then they walk the coaches and the officials out to the center of the 3 mats for the state finals. And I was down on the floor one year because my dad was inducted as a coach. I didn't do anything. I'll tell you, I got goosebumps, man. And I can't imagine being an official, because you probably don't get, maybe you do, I don't know. But when you're on the mat, you don't get to look up at all the people with no stress and anything and just be like, yeah, you know what I mean? Like,
yep.
I don't know. Ohio can do it, anyone can do it, man. But I just think that's awesome the way they do it. I'm not trying to downplay it. I'm just saying, like, we need to put officials, like, we need to shine the light on them a little bit more, I think. And, you know, if it's something that we could do, I mean, it takes 10 minutes, right? Everyone's there, you know, no one's missing the finals. If you miss a round, it's not the blood round and it's not the finals.
Yep.
You know, so you've got the full house. Pretty cool, man. Congratulations again. You're also in Region 1 Hall of Fame too, right?
Yep. That's just locally here. They
not just take the compliment, please.
It's locally Southeastern Minnesota, and actually, I'm trying to think. I went into that maybe the year before, and that was fun too. That was really fun.
I can't imagine being giving you thanks for 33 years of service isn't fun, right? Or it wasn't 33 at the time.
We have a group here in southern Minnesota, SEMREC, Southeastern Minnesota Wrestling Coalition, and they're the guys who I'm a member of now that put on the Clash. And the money that is made at the Clash goes back to the, I think, 32 teams in this area. So, for instance, in the spring, when they have that Region 1 Hall of Fame, we have the Region 1 Senior Night. So all senior wrestlers, cheerleaders, managers are recognized. They get a nice plaque, they get a meal. We have the banquet. There's the Wrestler of the Year, Class A, AA, AAA. And then some contributors like myself get to be honored. And because people have asked me for years, where does that money go that's made at that tournament? Because it makes some significant money. Well, it all goes back, believe me. They pay for that meal there. They pay for a great coaches banquet at the Clash. And they help kids pay for their wrestling camps. They bring in clinicians. This year we had a Clash camp. We couldn't have it for a while because of COVID. Brought a couple wrestlers down from the Gophers. Had a 3-day camp. You know, paid those guys, roomed those guys, and it's fun. It's fun.
Sounds like fun. Yeah, I mean, it goes back to kind of like you said the point about like the Clash has been doing this and giving this money back for how many years, right? And one of the things I've found with some of these organizations that run these tournaments and they do like some awesome stuff, but no one knows about it. No one knows about it, right? Like it, and it's I don't know the answer. I have a theory though, so I'm going to share that with you. Is like wrestling is like wrestlers. A lot of us are blue collar. You know, I mean, there's all kinds of people. Blue collar people aren't like they're not the. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be heard or seen. I just want to do the job. And so, like I think like we get in and we're like, all right, we want to do a wrestling tournament. It's like, well, we got to do this, and then we don't think about okay, but then we're doing all this awesome stuff that no one knows about. Like we don't know to blow our horn, right? There's an organization here in Ohio. It's been done in wrestling tournaments for 27 years. They are a nonprofit. They have to run a zero budget. They've given over $100,000 to scholarships to kids every single year. And no one knows. And everyone's like, oh, they charge this much and blah, blah, blah. It's like, you know what I mean? But if you don't tell the story, how do they know? That's just my theory. And so I'm so glad that we have this. So hopefully someone watching this realize the impact, not only in providing quality competition and keeping wrestling alive and well, but understands the financial impact of the tournament as well. All right, one more. This is one that I should have asked you before we got on, so don't mispronounce it. Bartelma Hall of Fame?
Bartelma Hall of Fame. That is the
Region 1?
No, that's the Minnesota coaches.
Gotcha.
Bartelma was he's since passed wrestling guy, so the Hall of Fame was named after him.
Cool. Thank you for clearing that up.
Yeah.
All right. Couple more questions for you. I'll let you run. This has been awesome. Okay, these are the heavy hitters. Are you ready? I tried to warm you up, you know.
Yeah.
Give you a little time to warm up. why do you like? First of all, what's the state of officials like in Minnesota? Are numbers down like it's from everywhere else I'm talking? It seems like.
They are. They are. Wrestling is kind of held steady, but what we're experiencing is there's how am I going to say this? There's too many officials like me with
You're gonna
25.
retire soon, is what you're trying to say.
Correct.
Because, thank
And,
you.
and we just don't know if we've got enough guys coming up behind us. Other sports are in terrible straits here in Minnesota. They can't play all the Friday night football games because there's not enough officials. Some of them have to be played on Saturday afternoon. High school, volleyball, the same thing. And I worked near the head of the basketball association of this area, and they just had a really terrible time the last few years. The answer to that is many, I guess.
Yeah, no. I was trying to like understand if my next question's gonna make sense, and your answer's on par. Unfortunately, it's on par with what I hear, right? But it is what it is, right? The facts are the facts. Now, what are you gonna do about them? Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that are going to be retiring right now, and they're right around your age. And I think it's really easy right now, I think, for this next question. So I'm trying to preface it as delicately as I can. I think it's really easy to make one easy excuse and say that today's generation, young kids are different and blah, blah, blah. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't know. I don't have any science to back that up. But there is something to say about your generation, my father's generation, about hardworking people that understood the importance of giving back. Like if you got something from someone or something, like my dad taught me early on, not that I know how to use tools, I do not. So people will laugh when they hear this, but if someone gives you a tool, you better return it shinier than it was. Correct. When you got it. Right. And so that's like someone gave you wrestling. That's what it was. They introduced you to wrestling. They gave you wrestling. What you choose to do with it is up to you. Get as much as you put into it. But then those folks were like, okay, you gave me wrestling, so now I'm done competing. 500 wrestler, whatever, it doesn't matter. I'm going to go into this, and I'm going to make sure that the next generation has good officials so that they can have the same experience, and maybe that will be cyclical. All that to say, why do you think there's so many less people like expressing interest or even exploring becoming an official?
I think one of the biggest reasons people are not giving it a shot is because the bad publicity that comes out there, mostly from youth sports, of these parents going off, running out onto the mat, running onto the field, running onto a basketball court, because they called a foul on their son. They didn't slap the mat. He didn't get the takedown at the edge of the mat. And as you've said earlier, nobody's getting a full ride to Minnesota, Ohio State, or Iowa because they didn't get a takedown on a Saturday 6th grade tournament. And to me, the pay isn't the big thing. Keeping guys or gals out of the wrestling community, I think it's the bad parents. I'm not going to say the parents. It's the bad apples. And my dad is 94 years old. He asks me every year, he says, well, how did the wrestling season go? And I says, well, Dad, I said, it went pretty good. I says, I got 3 reasons. I said, I'm getting older. I'm losing my hearing. So I don't hear that stuff as much as I used to. I said, I walk in the door and somebody says, well, Olson's here. It doesn't matter what we yell. And I says, maybe I'm just getting better. And I just throw those things out there. But our guys, new guys that we get, the biggest thing I hope to get them to do is to enjoy it and to get their wife or their partner to enjoy it too. So when you leave to go to a match the first week in February and it's 10 degrees out or 10 below, and you have to drive somewhere and they're sitting at the fireplace and stuff like that and say, you could stay home. No, go there. Go to the match. And I told you I have 3 grown kids, and one of my daughters told me maybe 8 years ago, she says, Dad, she says, it doesn't look like you're having any fun when you ref. You never smile. And ever since then, I've made it a point to smile when I'm on the mat. Because put it this way, when you go to a dual meet, 75% of the time or a pretty high percentage, everybody knows who's going to win tonight. It's just a matter of what the distribution of who wins 8 and 6 and stuff like that. So I'm not going to make a big change in the team score. So why don't I enjoy it? Let the fans see me smile. Let the coaches see me smile. Not that I'm giggling or anything like that. Just show them that I enjoy it. And I found that I've enjoyed it way, way more. And I had knee surgery a couple years ago, and I missed officiating the second half of the season and the first half of the next season, and I could not wait till I did my next match. And I'm one of the senior guys in our group. So
that's awesome, man. So I heard a couple of things there. So let's start back at the beginning. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this is kind of what I believe. Someone else has shared this with me too, so it's not my idea. I can't take credit for it, but I think some of what you said could maybe be distilled into the kids haven't changed, the parents did.
I will agree with you maybe 100%. Kids are kids. I think that the kids are kids, and people will say it's a bad group of kids this year. No, it's not. The kids are good. If the referee comes out there, takes charge of the mat, asks those kids to put their mask on afterwards, they will. I've told our new officials, sometimes we do these little kids wrestling tournaments on a Sunday or something, and they divide a mat into
quarters.
Yeah, and
it's a nightmare.
They get over toward the line, and I just tell those kids, move to the center. They're wrestling. Move to the center. Move to the center. And it's just like they slide right over. It's that easy, because I truly believe, especially at the younger kids, they're looking for authority figure to tell them what to do. I mean, or I'm almost asking them, just move over, put your mask on, move back to the center, put your hands on the front of the line, and they do it. It's that easy most of the time.
Yeah, it's kind of funny though, like not funny. Ironic's a better word, right? Is you'll hear that. I think it's easy to say, right? Because every generation says it about the generation after them or before, or vice versa, right? Oh, these kids, blah, blah, blah. But if you think about the person that's saying, it's who raised that generation. Like,
absolutely.
Like, I don't think you're thinking about all the implications of what you're saying. But anyhow, all right, wrapping it up with a big hitter here. This has been awesome. Oh, you do so much for the sport of wrestling. I almost feel guilty asking it, but I'm going to do it here until someone tells me to stop doing it. I'm trying something, man. I don't know if it's going to work, but if I don't try, I don't know. I'm asking people that to think about if you could make a commitment, because we all know it takes like, what do they say, 90 to 180 days to develop a habit, right? Like if you consistently do something bad or positive, that eventually becomes a habit, which becomes a lifestyle, right? That's true.
Yes.
So I'm not saying do it for 60 straight days, 30 or 90. I'm just saying if you could do it one time a month, do something in addition to what you're already doing, just to shine a light on your fellow officials, because it's got to be important to you, or you wouldn't be doing what you're doing for 33 years. And now with this podcast, and I'm going to be official, I probably won't ever wear a whistle. I just want to know the rules, so when I'm talking to folks like you, I don't make a fool of myself. So can you do me a favor? Think about something you could do not differently, in addition to what you're already doing, send me an email. Let's talk about it. And let's see what we could do with all these shows. If we get a whole bunch of people and we all have the same goal and we're doing something to move the sport forward, but we're focused on officials, who knows what could happen, man? What do you think?
Yeah. Well, one thing I know that I could do in addition or better or differently all together is to recruit officials actively. We have an association here and we have a mentorship program, but mostly we're looking for, or what has happened in the past is somebody sees a sign up and they sign up to be an official. Where I could, every match that I ref, we have a pre-meet meeting, leave a card. Anybody, when you guys get done wrestling with high school, if you want to try this out, get a hold of me, or get a hold of this email, or get a hold of this guy. We're looking. It can be a good experience. I've had the most wonderful experience in my life.
I can tell, man. You wouldn't be doing it that long, and you wouldn't have this many cool stories.
Yeah.
That's,
I've been to weddings, I've been to funerals, I've been to anniversaries, coaches' kids, graduations, and it's the greatest thing.
Yeah. Hey, here's another thing. A couple episodes ago, I come up with these ideas. Not executing on them is another thing. One of the other things too is essentially, right now, like if the elite wrestlers are usually signing their letters of intent like junior year, right? Like right about now, like before they go in the season. And so that's I say that because typically by your senior year, if you're getting a look, if you're going to continue your competitive career. And 1% of people go on to wrestle D3, D2, D1. Like it's a small group. So what my thoughts are is if you have a whole room and 5% of them are seniors or whatever, and X percent of that is going to wrestle, 90 something percent may never step on a wrestling mat ever again. Why not the week after sections, the week after districts? Because at least in my school, if you don't qualify for districts, you still have to practice for one more week because you have to be responsible for that person to train. We'll figure out the next step, right? But those folks that might be done, talking to the seniors. Hey, guess what? Your career just ended competitively. Great. You know what could be next? You're going to college. You want to make $100 every weekend? Who doesn't in college, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Boom. Here's my card. I don't know, just ideas. Bill, this has been awesome. I'm so glad we connected. It's cool. Like Laren Weichel, shout out to Laren. Put us in contact because I put a post on Facebook.
Yes.
I'm going to talk to like 5 other people from that group text in the next coming days. Wrestling truly is a family. I don't know too many other sports. I don't know of any personally where you can just call, text someone out of the blue, be like, hey, I want to talk to you about officiating, and then talk for an hour. Nothing really in common other than, we both lived in the true Midwest for a little bit and we love wrestling. So thanks for being on the show. Can you stay on after this so we can just debrief, make sure you don't have any questions, and I hope we can do this again.
Okay, I will. Thanks a lot, Bryce. Anytime.
Awesome.
I love talking wrestling.
Yeah, I can tell that. Me too, man. You're in the right place. Hey, hold on, all right?
You bet.